Our presenters this session are Agnes Lee and Ann Kaste. Agnes Lee is a resource sharing manager at Minitex with extensive experience in interlibrary loan systems. She currently manages staff working in the Ex Libris Alma interlibrary loan systems. Campus libraries at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities and staff working in OCLC verification. Ann Kaste is an electronic resources librarian at Minitex who has worked in academic, special, and K-12 libraries over the course of her career and enjoys connecting the dots between systems and people. Her interests are in all things libraries and making access to digital resources as seamless as possible for library users and educators. Thanks for presenting today, Agnes and Ann. Ann, you can go ahead and share your screen.
All right. All right, should we take it away?
Yeah.
All right. Hi, again, I'm Ann, and our topic today is interlibrary loan for Minnesota K-12 schools, what Minitex can do for you. Our audience definitely is, our intended audience is definitely that K-12 or that really high school media specialist, tech integrationist, anyone working with research with the students and digital resources in high schools. That's our primary audience today. And all of you who are not that are more than welcome to learn about how we recommend high schools access resources through interlibrary loan. So picture this before we start. You're working on a research project with a student for IB Lit and Lang, which if you're in a high school is common if you're in an international baccalaureate school. And they will come to you with these pretty amazing project ideas like they've just read the novel Pachinko and they would like to do their essay on researching the Japanese occupation of Korea and its effect on women and girls of the era, Korean women and girls of the era. They'd like to integrate effects of the novel into their paper. They'd like primary research, they'd like research articles, and they've Googled it. So they found lots of stuff. It's all out there, but they're running into this thing where it says they have to pay $25. So what should they do? That's a very typical scenario you'll run into as a high school librarian, media specialist, tech person, etc. So that's kind of our scenario today. How do you help them fulfill these requests? So today we'll discuss, first of all, we did want to back up just for K-12 people and talk about what Minitex is super briefly and what services Minitex has to offer for you. It's confusing. I know being out there in a high school, you're not really sure what Minitex exactly does. We do so many things for K-12 libraries that we just wanted to share really briefly. But then we'll talk about some strategies for locating full text before you have to come to Minitex to request an ILL, because it's always easier to find it right away than have to request it. And then we'll talk about just the nuts and bolts of how to create a My Minitex account if you need to, and how to use the resource sharing to request physical materials and digital materials. All right, Agnes, what is Minitex?
Okay, in a few words, right? Minitex is a program of the Minnesota Office of Higher Education and the University of Minnesota Libraries. Now, we are housed on the West Bank in Wilson Library on the Twin Cities campus. The reason why we are here is because of the rich, collections that we use, extensively to fill requests. When we receive requests, we first check the University of Minnesota collections because we fill a lot of the requests, on campus. What we do is we support library communities, and we collaborate with our partnering libraries to share their resources, for your patrons. I'm going to hand it back to Ann. Next slide.
All right, and here are some of the things that Minitex does for K-12 schools. And each of these are basically their whole day-long session. So I just wanted to run through them real quick to jog your memory if you've ever heard them. And then at the top of every slide, we do have a link to contact us. So if any of these things you have questions about later, please use our contact and then we will get it to the right place within minutes, I promise, and we'll get to your question. But here are some of the things. eLibrary Min, which I'm sure you're familiar with and would be the first place you might want to look for this student for their research on all of our databases that we offer on eLibrary Min. Minnesota Digital Library, which is a collection of artifacts from Minnesota, of all cultures and peoples of Minnesota that are curated in a beautiful, beautiful way, primary source materials that you can use for researching with students, documents, photos, you name it, anything that you can use for Minnesota specific research of all of the cultures and peoples of Minnesota. And it's ever growing and it's just a beautiful thing. The Minnesota Libraries Publishing Project, in case you want to work with students, English teachers, social studies teachers, to help students publish their own ebooks and have them on a searchable platform. We actually do help with that service as well. And then there's eBooks Min, which you may be familiar with, integrating with Mackin, our wide collection of unlimited user ebooks that are available to you to use and put into your catalogs with MARC records. Ask Min, which is available for students to ask questions day and night with a chat with a live librarian. And that's available to all residents of Minnesota as well. So for students who need help at night, that might be a great thing. And then lastly, where we're going to talk about today, resource sharing and resource delivery. We do offer cooperative purchasing and discounts for e-resources and physical library products in the CEPRS division of Minitex. So all of that is out there for you. But the very one thing corner of Minitex we're talking about today is the resource sharing piece and how to get resources to you, which is basically the cornerstone of how Minitex even began. So we're excited to be able to, I never want to miss an opportunity if we're talking to K-12 librarians and media workers and tech workers to mention all the services that we do have that we'd love to share with you. Okay, so like I said, our focus today is going to be resource sharing. So I'll kick it back to Agnes for a sec.
Okay. So what do we do? We facilitate, fulfillment of your requests. Once you have set up an account with us, the first thing you do is to set up an account. Once we have that, you will be able to submit requests, to us. So this is open to everyone. Now, during the pandemic last year, we signed up a high school in Duluth. They were not able to come down to the Wilson Library to do their research. They went online, found out what they need, and then they, submit the request. Now for them, they were very excited because they had 2 of their students that went on to regional competition. So it was it was timely, and then they were very appreciative that, they were able to access all the items they need.
Yeah, so
Next
any
slide.
library,
Yep.
yeah, any high school and any library in Minnesota is free to create a My Minitex account to borrow physical and electronic materials with us on behalf of your students. So we would love to help you with interlibrary loans, but we did want to take the opportunity to tell you a few quick tips in case you weren't aware of how to find things without having to do an interlibrary loan. And I just wanted to highlight these as a former digital learning coordinator and working with students. They would often, and teachers would often send me article requests, and I could just find them with these 3 quick tips that I'm going to share before I had to request interlibrary loans. So I just wanted to share them just in case you weren't aware. And they're in order of easiest to hardest, truly. The first thing I'd like to recommend is obviously a Google Scholar search. The kids will find lots of articles that they want, and then they'll run into the paywall. If it is available in Google Scholar for open access, it is often just a link on the right-hand side, a blue link to the PDF, if it's available openly online. However, the tip that I wanted to share, and you probably already knew that part, but the tip I wanted to share is the other versions link in Google Scholar is just awesome, because a lot of times they'll have preprint versions of the article that are available in open access, and they may not be on that first page, but if you look in the other versions, you will often find a version of the article that will work just fine for a high school student to read read through. So that's an easy peasy thing to just check really quickly. Another thing I think you just have to do as a high school media person is to have the Unpaywall extension installed on your computer, on your Chrome browser. Just go to the extensions and browse for Unpaywall, and you will find it. You can install it. It'll run in the background on your Chrome browser. Now, if you're in an iPad school, students can't do this. So again, this is something you have to do for them, because they can't usually install. I mean, at my schools, they haven't even been able to install Chrome. So you'll have to do this piece for them if it's a browser extension. But what this extension does is it sits in the background. And if you go to the website of an article and try to get to the PDF, if it's open access, it will have a little green unlocked padlock on the right-hand side. Super handy. If it's not open access, it will be a gray padlock. Now, I recommend both the Google Scholar piece and this piece because I've had one work and one not work in the past. So those are just two things to try before you bother with interlibrary loans. I really like to just point those out. Now, the most important thing for Minitex, though, to share is, of course, look in eLibrary Min. Search the databases for articles that students have found. They may not have just found the full text that way. So go into student research and search the library resources with the EBSCO Academic Search Premier is probably the one you'll find the most results in. You can also just search here for publications. If you know the journal title, the title of the journal, not the article. You can't put the article title in here, but if you do have the journal title, you can put it in this box. Excuse me. And search to see if we have the full text there. Okay, the last thing I wanted to point out, let me try to take a drink, is that Hennepin County Library does offer, if you have a library card in Minnesota, you can register that card with Hennepin County and have access to their resources. So their discovery search works very well to search across many databases, including the key one, JSTOR. So if you can get into this search and search the magazine and newspaper articles and find an article in here using a library card and PIN, either with Hennepin County or when you've registered with Hennepin County, and usually I would have to do this on behalf of students because it's kind of complicated, you could get to the full text of not only all the ELM stuff, but also JSTOR stuff. And a lot of times for International Baccalaureate and AP research, they are looking for JSTOR items. So that's really a quick and dirty way to get to things before you have to interlibrary loan them. The Hennepin County Library card registration, you just have to contact Hennepin County Library and they will help you out with that. But that's been a beautiful thing to help students register their cards that way and have access to all of those wonderful resources. However, that's kind of a tricky thing to do. And this might be that really challenging last step where you might want to stop and just request with Minitex with your request. Sorry about my coughing. I'm coming off of a diagnosis. So luckily I'm home and not coughing all over you. These are some of the good things. I think I'm recovered now though. Okay, so if you have no luck with all of those other ways of trying to get the article, you can request it with My Minitex. And if you don't have a My Minitex account yet, it's easy to create one. We ask that you do 1 or 2 per school. So you have kind of a designated person who works in the media center who is the go-to for requesting on behalf of the students. So you create the account, we approve it behind the scenes. An actual humans do look at it. So it does take a little bit of time. It's not instant. We'll do it within the day though, to approve your account. And then if you've done this in the past and it's a distant memory and you don't remember, just say, forgot my password, and we'll help you reset that too. So you can get back in the swing of things with requesting through Minitex. It's just really, really the way to go for requesting on behalf of students. It's great. And then if you create your My Minitex account, you'll also have access to those other fun things I talked about with cooperative purchasing, registering for conferences, ordering library products, all those things. It makes it really easy if you have that My Minitex account. So this might be your little reminder to go ahead and do that too. Okay, so then once you're in the My Minitex account, you're going to request your ILLs here. And then I'll kick it to Agnes. She's going to talk about how to request physical items through ILL with Minitex.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about resource sharing, the unit. What do we do? The staff here in resource sharing facilitates requests that are coming into our office. So when we first get the request, we could be verifying to see what potential lenders might have this item. They retrieve items from the University of Minnesota Twin Cities campus. They scan articles. And then we also have the referral processing area that is processing, items that we have received on behalf of your students. Process it, send it back to you. And when you are done with the books, they will also process it when it, is returned. As I mentioned earlier, we filled a lot of requests from the University of Minnesota Twin Cities libraries. That's our first stop. Now, the turnaround time is probably between 24 hours or 2 days, because we have multiple shifts of staff, going through retrieving the items. So when the item is on the shelf, it's very quick. We can get it in the morning, and then the delivery staff comes and pick it up and ships it off to you. When we can't fill it at U of M Twin Cities location, we also have staff going to the Hennepin County Central location downtown. When these two these two sites cannot fill it, we will look at the potential lenders and refer it to our participating libraries. Our participating libraries are in Minnesota, North and South Dakota, and Wisconsin. When we get the items for you, we will use a delivery system, to move these items to your school. For the high schools, because of the volume, we will send it via USPS. Now, once your students is done with the item, okay, I should back up a little bit. When you get the item, you will receive a copy of the pick slip, which is a request with the due date information in the book. So when you're done with the item, you can return to us via USPS or use this orange bookmark that I have here. Is the courtesy return bookmark. What you do is you put send to. Now, Anne mentioned before, each of the high school has a code, like let's say HS and then a number. So that's your identification. For Minitex, it's MII. So on the courtesy bookmark, you can put send to MII from HS 72, let's say, and the date sent. With this bookmark, you can drop the book off any public library. Because we have couriers, delivery with them, they will route the item back to us. Now you have to use the bookmark because we have instances that, you just drop it off. They don't know where this book is going, right? So always use the bookmark so that we can process it and close this request so that you are not, responsible for it. It's, we can identify then and say this is returned. Next slide. Okay, so once you have set up an account, when you log in, this is what you will see. Now your organization code is, this one is MII. So the first thing you need to fill out is not needed after. You don't want to give us anything or more than 3 months. Now the requests are either filled or unfilled quickly. Now there might be instances that, like that Pachinko is a bestseller novel right now. We might have to go to refer it to many locations before we can fill it for you. So give us anything no longer than 3 months. Patron name. This is where you want to be consistent about putting the last name first or the first name. Because once you have built up, a number of requests, you can do a search. The student can say, okay, I want that book that I got, 2 months ago. I can't remember the name. You can go into the system and check, based on their, last name or first name, how you, put that information. Now, I have also known schools to put the barcode, the patron's barcode or identification in there also. So whatever works for you, that's fine. Now for this, I'm talking about a physical item. So you want to check the loan here that is circled. And we also do a lot of different formats. It could be a book, it could be an AV format. So if you're looking for a DVD, check the DVD so that we know what you're requesting. Next slide. Okay, so the field with the asterisk is where is a required field. So we need the author title, but that doesn't mean you can stop there. If you have more information, give us that information, because it is always helpful to have as much information so that when we do the verification, we are hitting the right item that patron is looking for. Next slide. Okay, what I want now, if you have the ISBN or OCLC number, if you're familiar with this, do give us that information. Notes, if you have a specific, like, let's say if you want that specific edition, put that information down. We would always go with the edition that you requested, but if we can't, we will substitute the edition. Next slide. Okay, some of the things, to be aware of. Put as, like I mentioned before, put as much information as possible and the addition specific, and also the substitution. Now, currently, we have about 90 high school accounts. Now, there are two types of high schools. One, they send requests throughout the year. Now, there are advanced, placement classes, so students are always looking for, materials. Then there are the libraries that would, come to us once a year during the history day. So then they would send, massive number of requests, because of the history day. So, we welcome both. So whatever works for you, that's fine. Next slide. Okay. You can request a renewal anytime before the due date. Now, University of Minnesota have a very generous loan period. It's 13 weeks. Always request a renewal closer to the due date. Now, if the item is overdue, long overdue, the lender is not likely, to grant the renewal. The item is checked out because the account is made out to the high school. It is checked out to your school. So you are responsible for getting the item back. Invoices. Now, this is the not so fun subject, but I have to talk about it. Sometimes, when the lender sends invoice, I will forward it on to you. If the item is returned, toss it away. Don't worry about that. There are no fines. If you return the book, that's a done deal. When you are ready, let's say the item is lost, okay? You want to let me know, and then we can check and see if the lender would accept a replacement copy. Don't buy a copy before, talking to me, because there are, I would say 50-50. Some libraries, have specific, they want that edition. It has to be a new copy, and some will not accept a replacement copy. So check first. Next slide. Okay, I think back to you, Anne.
Okay, yeah, and my part is a little bit quicker because you've already kind of been through the My Minitex form. Really, if you want to request a book chapter, an ebook chapter, or a book chapter, digitized book chapter, or an ebook chapter, or a journal article, this would be the same form you use as the physical materials. The only difference is you just select copy instead of loan, and then there's a few different fields to fill out based on that. So these are the two essential things to check, but again, they are required. Well, this one's required. You must select if it's been published within the last 5 years or not. And then if you want electronic delivery, you have to click this box, deliver via email. Just don't forget to do that. It's not a required field, but that's basically the essential thing. All the other fields that are on here we would love to have them as much as you can fill them out. But we all know how it can be pretty tedious to break apart a journal citation and pick out the volume and the issue so just basically do what you can. Give us as much as you can of the journal title and the journal article that you want. You can paste it in the notes, paste the citation in the notes too, just to help us out a little bit more. And that's an easy way to ensure that we'll know what you're talking about. But don't get too hung up on if you don't know the OCLC number or any of that stuff. Just give us your best shot, basically, and we'll find it for you. So then within a very small amount of time, Agnes was saying maybe a couple hours, I mean, depending, but you'll receive an email, hopefully, if we can get it quickly, in your inbox, your email inbox. And it will just say it's ready to go. It will look, this is the email will look like this. You click on the link and you actually will have your login will be your email that you use to register, and then a PIN number. Now it'll take you to an interface where you will, oh, I don't have a picture of that interface, I'm sorry, but it'll take you into my Minitex for a link to the article itself. At that point, you can click on that link up to 5 times and view it within 14 days. You can also download that PDF and then you'll have it to share with students. So don't get stressed out about the 5 times thing. You can download that PDF and then share it with the students in that way, via email or Google Drive, or print it out for them, or however they'd like to have it. So again, this would be 1 or 2 people at your institution would be doing this work on behalf of students, and then we can get it to you pretty darn quickly that way. So basically that is it for our side of the presentation. If you have any questions, we're open to them right now. We did go through a lot there, so let us know.